Have you ever stopped to wonder where your local tax dollars are really going? Well, today, we're doing a deep dive into the finances of Shasta County and the city of Redding. We're going to look at what happens when promises from the past, like multi-million-dollar pension debts, start to eat up the money we need for roads, parks, and police today.
Okay, so let's jump right in with the part everyone sees first, the salaries. We're going to look at what some of the top public employees are making, and then we're going to put that right next to what the average family is bringing home in the exact same area. And right off the bat, you can see the scale of the difference here. It's pretty staggering. On the left, you've got the single highest compensation package for a city employee in Redding for 2024. And on the right, that's the median income for an entire household. To put that in perspective, a typical family would have to work for more than 9 years just to make what that one employee got in a single year.
Now, to get a clearer picture, here are the top 5 total compensation packages in the city of Redding for 2024. And you might be looking at that top number thinking, wait, how is that possible? Well, the source material notes that these big figures often include huge one-time payouts for things like cashing out unused vacation and sick leave. Still, it gives you a very real sense of the top-tier earnings in local government. But here's the thing. As high as those numbers are, they are literally just the tip of the iceberg. The real, long-term financial squeeze on the community isn't just a salary. It's something much, much bigger and way less obvious. The lifetime pension promises that are attached to these jobs.
So let's look at that hidden part of the iceberg. This is where we need to talk about pension debt. We're going to unpack this idea of unfunded pension liabilities. Now, I know that sounds super technical and boring, but stick with me because this concept has an absolutely massive impact on your city's budget.
This slide really breaks down the fundamental difference. You know, most of us in the private sector, we have a 401k. Our retirement depends on how our investments do. If the market goes down, well, that's on us. But for most public employees, it's a pension. They are guaranteed a specific paycheck for life, no matter what. And if the investments fall short, well, the taxpayers have to step in and make up the difference. So this brings us to this critical term, unfunded pension liability. The easiest way to think about it is like a giant credit card debt for the city. It's the massive gap between the money the government has actually saved for retirement promises and the much, much larger amount it's on the hook to pay out. It's a bill for past promises that's coming due today.
So how big is that bill? Just for the city of Redding alone, we're talking about an unfunded pension liability of roughly $383 million. Let that sink in. That's over $1/3 billion in debt just for retirement promises.
Okay, so $383 million. It's a number so big it's hard to wrap your head around. But what does it actually mean for your daily life? How does a giant pension debt affect whether your street gets fixed or how long your library stays open? Let's connect the dots.
This isn't a future problem. It's happening right now. Every single year, the city has to make a huge payment on this old debt. And as you can see, that payment is only getting bigger. For the coming fiscal year, over $18 million is being pulled from the city's main pot of money, the general fund, just to pay down this pension debt. The year after that, it's projected to jump to nearly $19.5 million.
And here's the real kicker. This is the most important part to understand. Every single dollar that's spent paying off old pension promises is a dollar that cannot be spent on the public services we all need and see today. It means less money for fixing potholes, for hiring more police officers, for keeping parks clean, or for making sure libraries can stay open. You, the taxpayer, are paying more and more, but you're actually seeing fewer services in return.
Okay, so clearly this situation isn't sustainable. So what's the solution? Is there a way out of this? Well, the source material we're drawing from lays out 3 potential paths forward. And I gotta tell you, none of them are easy. It's a real uphill battle.
The 3 major options on the table are municipal bankruptcy, trying a major pension reform, or going to the negotiating table to cut current salaries and benefits. And like I said, each one of these comes with its own massive set of obstacles.
First up, you've got what is basically the nuclear option, bankruptcy. Now, some California cities have done this, but it is an incredibly painful process. It absolutely destroys a city's credit rating, making it expensive to borrow money for anything. And here's the biggest problem. Even in bankruptcy, courts have been extremely hesitant to allow cities to cut those core pension promises.
So what about option 2? Just reform the system, right? Switch new employees over to a 401k style plan. Well, the problem is a massive legal roadblock known as the California rule. Essentially, the state Supreme Court has said that promised pension benefits for current employees are like an unbreakable contract. You can change the rules for people you hire tomorrow, but you can't for the people working today.
And that leaves the third path, reducing salaries and benefits going forward. This is often seen as the most realistic option, but it is still incredibly limited. Any changes for current employees have to be negotiated with very powerful public employee unions, and that process can be, to put it mildly, extremely long and difficult.
So after looking at these absolutely staggering numbers and the incredibly difficult, almost impossible solutions, what's the big takeaway here? What does all this really mean for the people living in Shasta County?
You know, this quote from the source article just hits the nail on the head. It really gets to the heart of the whole issue. A politician can stand up and say, hey, we have a balanced budget. But what does that really mean for you if a bigger and bigger piece of that budget is being swallowed by debt from the past instead of paying for the services you and your family need right now?
And by the way, the data, the numbers, and the analysis that we've walked through today, it all comes directly from some really in-depth reporting by Shasta Unfiltered. They're an outlet that's really dedicated to digging in and serving the North State with honest news like this.
And so, this whole situation leaves us with a really challenging and, frankly, urgent question. When there are no easy fixes on the table, how is a community supposed to balance the promises it made to its employees yesterday with the very real needs of its residents today? It's a tough conversation that is going to require a whole lot of transparency and some very difficult choices ahead.